Good day. Welcome to the continuation of our CPD training regarding basic digital forensic analysis and investigation. I'm your speaker for this module, Dr. Dennis S. Lagumen, the Dean of the College of Criminology and Criminal Justice of Kalayan Educational Foundation Incorporated and a board member of the Philippine Society of Criminologists and Criminal Justice Professionals. What I'm going to share to you is the result of training given to us by the United States Department of Justice Office of the Overseas Prosecutorial Development and Assistance Training in order to capacitate us in teaching cybercrime, which is a new subject included in the new BS Criminology curriculum. The U.S. Department of Justice invited several professors from the United States who handle cybercrime investigation in their university, as well as a practitioner, the director of the Computer Laboratory of the United States Department of Justice, to train us in the actual examination of cybercrime cases. The topic would be dealing with critical steps to incident response. Now, this is the same training that, according to the director of the Computer Laboratory of the United States Department of Justice, the same training that they gave to their law enforcement officers so that they would know how to handle digital evidence. Now, I would like to share to you and to introduce to you our trainer, the main trainer. He is OBL Carroll. He is the director of the Cybercrime Laboratory of the United States Department of Justice, and their office is the Computer Crime and Intellectual Property Section, or simply called CISIP. For several weeks, OB Carroll trained us in basic digital forensic analysis. And one of our tasks is to share this to other academicians and other people who would like to learn cybercrime investigation. You may ask, why is there a need to study cybercrime investigation? Is there really a need? We have already investigators. We have the CIDG, we have the PNP, we have the NBI. So why do we need to study cybercrime investigation? Well, if you're going to say, we are into the internet, we are using computers in our daily life, we are using smartphones, then I have to say you are correct. In our time today, we are very much dependent on the use of the internet. And because of that, there are many people who would like to take advantage of our reliance on the internet. In cyberspace, here to you this footage.
We use technology every day in our lives for everything.
People just expect the lights to be on, they expect to be able to turn on the tap and for water to come out.
You're activating about 250 different microchips in the modern automobile. Every machine that you get connected to in the hospital, the banks, your credit card purchase.
We're also seeing appliances that have become internet-enabled.
Technology is just becoming the fabric of the modern world.
We are becoming increasingly dependent on it.
People don't realize that behind all of these systems, there's computers that were probably built 20 years ago.
Surf's up, see you on the net.
All of those computers and software are deeply insecure. Standard view of a cybercriminal is some 16-year-old pimply kid in his mom's basement hacking away at a keyboard in between playing World of Warcraft or Call of Duty. But it's changed. Today, it's actually a business, and it's run by traditional organized crime groups and new modern organizations. They are global, they're multinational, they're multilingual, and they're operating 24/7.
If you shopped at a Target store on Black Friday, your credit card may have been affected by a massive security breach.
If you are a victim of a car theft, you know that your car is stolen. You can call the police, they can look for it, etc. What's different about cybercrime is it happens in the background. And by the time you actually realize it, if you ever do, it's way too late.
You can see the hacker is actually working in my computer right now.
99% of the people who have been victims of cybercrime don't even know about it. Their machines have been hacked. The bad guys are living inside your computer. They're monitoring what you're doing. According to the latest studies in 2014, the average time to detection is over 200 days. And that doesn't matter if you're a mom sitting at home or the major corporation in Silicon Valley. 200 days across the board. By the time you realize you've got a problem, it's way too late. All of your customers' credit cards are now out on the internet, where people are starting to short your stock in really odd ways.
One hacker group may have stolen up to $1 billion from banks around the world. Kaspersky says the cyber attacks are still happening.
They're going to first break into a computer in Buenos Aires, and from there going to hop to a computer in Italy, and from Italy they'll go to London, and then they'll go to the bank that they want to take over in New York. And what that means is that now you have an international criminal investigation, and the evidence is incredibly ephemeral. For some parts of the world, the whole concept of cyber, internet, and computers is so new, they have absolutely no laws against cybercrime.
If we don't have a legal framework that allows the countries to cooperate, then the victim can't do much about the attacker. We don't have a set of frameworks that address the full range of cyber hazards.
The technology is developing way too quickly for us to rely upon legal instruments to fix this problem. Beyond that, most of the world's information is not encrypted, whether it be your credit card number or your personal data or your health records.
Anthem Insurance got hit by a massive electronic attack. The hackers made off with many of the necessary tools to do a whole lot of damage to a lot of people.
We have the attackers running very, very quickly, and it's very difficult to defend against them.
The real challenge for all of us is really, do I feel safe in this online environment?
There's never been a better time for exponential change in the cybersecurity world.
I think that the next big technology should be the creation of a safer internet.
Okay, so from that video clip, what did we learn? According to them, it takes around 200 days before any cybercrime investigation can be done. And if you are a victim of cybercrime, chances are the criminals have already erased all the possible evidence, digital evidence available. And according to them, much worse, you have already been a victim of cybercrime and you do not know that you are a victim of cybercrime. So therefore, understanding cybercrime investigation would somehow equip us on how to deal with this type of crimes happening in cyberspace. So according to them, and according to, this is around 2019 data, now 2018, according to the internet, there are about 3.2 billion people, or about 55.1% of the world's population, are using the internet. So you would see it's more than half the population of the world is using the internet. And it is no different and nothing unusual that there would be cyber criminals lurking in cyberspace in order to earn a profit, in order to take your hard-earned money, because there are many people in cyberspace. What else? According to most experts, cyber criminals earn over $3.25 billion annually. For what? From where? Social media-enabled cybercrime. So you, like I said, like the video clip said, you may be a victim of cybercrime and you don't even know about it. So therefore, if you don't know you're a victim, how can you ask for help? How could you ask for justice? So with 3.25 billion annually, you can expect that there would be a lot of cyber criminals in cyberspace because there's money to earn. So therefore, knowledge of cybercrime will help us deal with this type of criminal. So do you believe that we are living in a digital world? Well, if your answer is yes, that we are living in a digital world, then it is imperative that we understand this basic concept. In cybercrime investigation, the future investigation depends on the ability to quickly identify, preserve, and analyze digital evidence. These are ephemeral evidence, meaning they cannot be touched, but you know it is there. Can you touch your information in Facebook? No. But then again, cyber criminals can easily hack your data. And I think you have seen a lot, heard a lot of news. Cloud server, the Google Cloud server was hacked. The Comelec was hacked in 2016 before the election. Around 25 million personal information was leaked. So these are all too frightening, simply because we are not aware on how to protect ourselves from cyber criminals who are in cyberspace. We are just too preoccupied in using Facebook, using the internet, posting anything in Twitter and Instagram without knowing that cyber criminals are collecting this data and can be used against us. So therefore, in any investigation in cybercrime, it depends on our ability to quickly identify, preserve, and analyze digital evidence. In 2017, according to the internet, well, we say tech people, tech expert, in 2017, we are able to create 8 zettabyte of information. It is either created or replicated in any storage device. You may ask, what is 8 zettabyte of information, right? What is 8 zettabyte? Have you ever heard of 8 zettabyte? Well, for us to understand zettabyte, let's go to the very basic. And we are familiar with gigabyte, GB. When you're going to buy a flash drive, you're going to say, I would like to buy an 8 GB flash drive, right? So you're familiar with GB, gigabyte. Now, if we're going to take 1000 gigabyte, what would be the next number? Well, it is terabyte, right? And if you take 1000 terabyte, you would have what? Petabyte, okay? And if you take 1000 petabyte, you would have, what is next? Exabyte. And again, when you take 1000 exabyte, then we will reach zettabyte. So from here, it's 1000 exabyte to get 1 zettabyte. Take note, we created in 2017 8 zettabyte of information. Now, there was a very techy guy in the internet, and he tried to calculate if you're going to print the digital information that we have created on a piece of paper, how many stack of paper it would be able to create? Well, accordingly, if you're going to print 1 gigabyte of digital information on a pad paper, on a bond paper, it would measure 1,000 feet of paper stacked upward. Or, if you're going to translate it into miles, it's 0.1893 miles. And that's only just 1 GB. And if you take 1,000 GB, what is next? Terabyte. And how many pieces of paper is a terabyte when printed on a paper? Well, accordingly, it would amount to, what number is this? 1,024,000 feet of paper, or it would measure 193.3 miles. So, how far is that? If you're in Manila, you'll be probably in the mountain province. So, it's too long, too many. And if you take 1,000 terabyte, 1 petabyte. And how much is 1 petabyte? How many paper is a 1 petabyte digital information printed on a paper? Well, accordingly, it would be this number. So how many is this? So we have 1,048,576,000 feet of paper, or 198,593.9 miles. So how long is that? And if you take 1,000 petabyte of digital, you would get, what's next? 1 exabyte. And how much is 1 exabyte of paper? Well, accordingly, it's this much. So we have million, billion, trillion. 1,73,741,824,000 feet of paper, or this much miles. 203 billion 360 million 193,900 miles. And again, if you take 1,000 exabyte, you would get 1 zettabyte. And how many is 1 zettabyte of digital information printed on a paper? Well, according to that guy, how many is this? 1. So this is million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, right? Of paper. How much miles? This much. But that's only 1 zettabyte of information, digital information. In 2017, we created how much? 8 zettabyte. So therefore, if you're going to compute that, this is 8 zettabyte of information. This much paper. This much miles. And if you're going to measure this mile, if you like to travel from the sun to earth, according to most experts, it's 92,960,000 miles from earth to sun. And when you're going to compare this, it will allow us to travel how many times from sun to earth? This much. 8,960,449 round trips to the sun, to the earth. So that's how much digital information we created way back in 2017. Okay? Last I checked in 2019, no, last I checked in 2018, we already created 33 zettabyte of digital information, whether it is created, replicated in any device storage centers and data centers. That was in December of 2018. Now it's 2020. Okay, notwithstanding the coronavirus, probably we're about what, 40, 50, 60 zettabyte. And accordingly, there's a prediction that by the time we reach 2025, we will be able to create 175 zettabyte of information. Okay, and if you would look at the bottom, this is where the source where I get this information. Now, what comes after zettabyte if we reach 1,000 zettabyte? Okay, so what comes after zettabyte? Well, you guess it, yottabyte is the next uh, name that we're going to get after zettabyte, yottabyte. And after yottabyte, I have not yet heard what is the next term to be used. So from this data, from this information, we now understand that we are really in a digital world and we cannot deny that we are in a digital world. So therefore, since we are living in this world, digital, we have to learn how to protect ourselves from the cybercrime. Okay? So, digital world is here to stay. We cannot deny the reality. We cannot deny that it is here. There are too many smartphones. There are too many iPads. There are too many computers, laptops. Young and old, they know how to use the internet. Young and old, they know how to use the internet, the computer, the smartphone. I can see as early as young as 2, 3 years old, they know how to use a cell phone. And what is worse is that when you take away this mobile phone, smartphone, this from this 3, 2 years old, what happens? You get it. Nagmamaktol sila, nagwawala, simply because there are many studies saying that the mobile phone is addictive. So therefore, we must learn how to protect our young children. So therefore, the digital world is here and we have to face the reality. So you have to understand that the internet is the preferred mode of business and communication today. How convenient it is to do mobile banking. You don't need to queue when there's too many customers. When you're going to pay your bills, you can use your credit card. You can use your GCash. You could use Paymaya, PayPal. So there are many modes of payment that we use the internet because it is convenient. Even in our communication, We are not fond of reading newspapers now. We just want to look at the internet and look for the news. And sometimes we go to YouTube and hear the news that is happening today. So basically, it is our preferred mode of business and communication. And therefore, cyber criminals are always lurking behind simply because they know they can easily victimize people who do not know how to protect themselves in cyberspace. So like I said, from the young, the old, they know how to use the internet. I know someone who just retired, and when he retired, has nothing to do, he tried the mobile phone, and when he learned how to use the mobile phone, have to have a Facebook page, and what happened? Become an addict of ATM. And what is ATM? You guess it at the moment. Okay? You have to remember, it's not safe to post your whereabouts in Facebook every time. It's a security risk. For example, let's say, for example, I'm living alone and I always click, preparing to go to the airport. Click, going to the airport. Click, at the airport. Click, boarding. Click, waiting for takeoff. Click, arrive at the airport. Click, going to my hotel. Let's say, for example, in Bangkok. So if I'm living alone and my friends are able to see my post, they know that my house is vulnerable because there's no one in my house. Let's say, for example, I'll be in Bangkok, I'll be in Korea, in Singapore, in Malaysia for 3 days. So for 3 days, my house is vulnerable. So therefore, it's not safe to post your every location in your activity. And if you are a person in interest for a certain criminals, they just need to watch your Facebook to know where you are and they can plan their activity. So therefore, do not always post your itinerary in Facebook simply because it's not safe. So that's what we mean by we're not security conscious. We do not know how to protect ourselves. Much worse, sometimes we post personal information. Let's say, for example, the class card, the grades of our children. We are so happy. Oh, my child is the first honor. You're going to paste the card. The name is there. And you have to remember when a stranger approached your child and he said, "Hey, Jenny," and his name is Jenny, her name is Jenny, he would be confused. Who is this person who knows my name? So therefore, do not post personal information in Facebook. We must learn how to protect ourselves from cyber crime. Because of the internet, because of the digital world, we live differently. How differently? Well, if you have a friend from other side of the world, Facebook, you will be able to communicate with each other. You can make video calls. You can have an email, a chat, and everything. So we live differently now. Okay? We communicate differently. Okay? Before, if you want to send a communication to your relative, you need to use the courier. Letter. You're going to write a letter, traditional letter. You're going to wait at least a month before it reaches the destination in another country. And before he or she is able to respond, you have to wait another month. But now, with a click of a tab, you're able to send a mail, send a message, a chat. So we are able to communicate. Even in socializing, it's different already. Before, before to know a person, you have to meet him personally. You have to befriend that person personally. But now, with text, you will meet new friends. Facebook, you will meet new friends. And the danger of that, I think you have heard in the news, they met in Facebook, they meet up in a certain place, then you would see the girl was raped and killed. So basically, it changes how we live and how we communicate, how we socialize. So therefore, we must learn how to protect ourselves from criminals lurking in cyberspace. According to Facebook in 2017, there's about 2.32 billion MAU in Facebook. And you may ask, What is MAU? Well, it's monthly average user. So you can just imagine in a month, there's 2.32 billion people in Facebook. So if you want to earn something, if you want to victimize someone in Facebook, you have 2.32 billion chances, right? And according to Facebook also, there's 1.15 billion DAU. And what is DAU? Well, you guess it, daily average user. So for any day, there's 1.15 billion people in Facebook. Just imagine that. Okay? If I'm a criminal, cyber criminal, I have 1.15 billion for this day to try to victimize. So in Facebook, okay, according to a study by Facebook, an average person spend about 5.9 hours a day in Facebook. Just imagine that, 5.9 hours a day. Let's make it a whole number, 6 hours. How many hours is required for a day's work? Normally, it's 8 hours. So 6 hours in Facebook a day, and you have only 2 hours for work. So it's no wonder some company would ban the use of Facebook because it's a lot of our time. Okay. So what else? According to Facebook more, people somehow uploads around 500 terabytes of new data per day in Facebook. So each day, from the like that we click, from the love we click, from the angry, whatever emotion that you use, for every comment that you post in Facebook, for every tweet that you use in Twitter, for every photograph you post in Instagram, that talks about 500 terabytes of new data. And take note, this is only Facebook. Okay? We have to check also about Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, so that we will have an idea, an exact number, how many data are uploaded in the internet. That's Facebook. Who's familiar with this icon? Well, probably. So probably you would say Twitter. And probably most of you would have a Twitter account. Well, according to Twitter, there's about 326 million daily average user in Twitter. And in 2000 something like 18, 500 million tweets per day is uploaded or created in the entire world. So you just imagine that, 500 million tweets from just a simple hi, hello, it's 500 million tweets. So therefore, there's too many digital information in the internet. Okay, so that's amount to 2 billion a year tweets for Twitter. So you may ask, why are people so into the internet? The young and the old, they are into the internet. You can just imagine, if you forget your cell phone at home and you're going to work, what will you do? Will you just go direct to the work and just get your cell phone when you get home? No! You would return into your house to get your mobile phone because it would be a big frustration in you that you cannot use Facebook or you cannot go to the internet and you can see your colleagues in internet. Especially if your wife is at the house and you forget the cell phone, you would never leave your cell phone with your wife. Problem. Okay? But then again, one of the main reason that people is into the internet is simply because it provides us this. What do you mean by this icon? Question mark. You guess it. We are anonymous in Facebook. I can create a Facebook account. I can put there a sexy picture that I get from the internet and I say my name is Jenny Ramos. And most people that would view my account would believe that I am Jenny Ramos and my picture is that picture. And when you see him in person, you would see this face. Okay, so therefore we can be anonymous in Facebook. We can create many Facebook accounts. And who among you do not have more than one Facebook account? Okay, you have to admit you have several Facebook accounts. Why? For whatever reason you have, you use several accounts in Facebook. So therefore you remain anonymous. According to Google, there are about Google searches per month around 15 million. Do you believe that there's 15 million Google searches per month? Would you believe that? Well, if you believe that, probably yes, that's in 1999. About in 2018 or 19, according to Google, there's about 1.2 trillion searches per year. So that's how many searches we have done in Google. When I was in an elementary, our teacher told us to have always have a pocket dictionary. Remember that pocket dictionary? And then when there are words that we do not understand, we look for that in the pocket dictionary so that we would understand what is the meaning. But now, if there is something that you encounter that you're not familiar with, well, for example, the passage of the building is very beautiful. You may ask, what is a passage? Right? All you have to do is go to Google, type passage, and you would see, oh, it is just the frontage of a building. So we don't use a dictionary mostly now. We use Google, and that's why we have 1.2 trillion searches per year. So, in the internet, you have to understand, the internet has the capacity to collect, to analyze, and to manipulate our personal data. You may ask, how does the internet collect, analyze, and manipulate our personal information? Well, let's go to Facebook. Okay, 3.32 billion people is in Facebook. Okay, a month. 1.15 billion a year, a day. When you created your account in Facebook, before you're able to have access to your account, you have to click an agreement of privacy, right? And you did not bother to read it, because if you're going to read that the contract, it's very long and the text is very small. But if you made a careful reading of the contract, you would see there that you allow Facebook to use your personal information and give it to third-party organization. That's how they collect our personal information. When you sign up to Twitter, you just click agree. Without knowing, you're allowing them to collect your personal information. When you sign up to Instagram, you also click agree with the privacy contract. You allow them to collect your personal information. When you sign up to Pinterest, okay, to whatever social media that you can think of, you have to sign in and you have to agree with the terms and the condition, and you just click yes. So it's a contract. So therefore, you're allowing these people to collect your information. And take note, signing up is for free. You do not pay any penny, any amount to sign in to that Facebook. And you may ask, how is Facebook able to sustain their organization? Facebook is $1 billion company now. You may ask, if it's free to sign up and it costs you nothing to upload your picture, to share your picture, to make a comment, how does Facebook, how is Facebook a $1 billion company? Well, because you allow them to collect your information and to analyze your personal information, and they can manipulate this personal information. And you may ask, what's the purpose of collecting, analyzing, and manipulating your personal information? Well, you have to understand, it's the concept of money. They are being monetized. And you may ask, how? Well, let's say, for example, I'm Facebook, and you would see on the right side of Facebook, there are many advertisements. So let's say, for example, I'm a company, and I went to Facebook, okay? Mr. Zuckerberg, okay? I would like to place an ad. My product is about this, and the target market is our people age 18 to 24. Then Facebook will say, okay, according to our data, we have around 1.1 billion users in that parameter, 18 to 24. Okay, I will pay you how much in order to place my ad. So they earn from advertisement. They are being paid so that their advertisement is there. So they earn money. But you don't earn money. You just upload your information. And that's why when you search something in Google also, you would see that in Facebook. Who is very fond of online shopping? Let's say, for example, Lazada, Salora, Shopee. When you search something in Shopee or in Lazada, after you open your Facebook, you would see what you search is already at the right side advertisement. Oh, it's already here. Why? Because Lazada is also paying Facebook so that when there's searches of this information, they would be able to send that to your account. It's targeted marketing. So, Lazada is paying Facebook for your information. So, it is being monetized. Okay? So, no, since you already agree with the contract, no amount of, sometimes you would see people in Facebook, I do not allow Facebook and give Facebook the authority to use my picture, my personal data. No more, because you already click yes, click check to the terms and condition. It is a binding contract. So therefore, they are collecting, analyzing, and manipulating your personal information so that they would earn money. At the end, we are the victim because they are using our information, but we are not earning anything. They become rich. So that's social media. So, especially in the advent of the Internet of Things, you may ask, what is the Internet of Things? The IoT. Well, in the Internet of Things, it is the synchronization of your mobile phone to your laptop, to your computer, to your car, to your house. So they are all connected and you can control them. And that's Internet of Things. And because of this, if they hack your phone, they most probably they will be able to hack your computer and other digital device that you have. So protection is key in cybercrime investigation. We cannot take that for granted. Just like this. So this would tell you how many internet things are already in our world.
Walk 50% faster to be on time.
Smart shoes. They are connected to our cell phones. We have the self-driving cars now. So self-driving cars. This Waymo is a self-driving car prototype in Germany. So it's connected to your cell phone, it's connected to the GPS. So one thing good about these digital devices, the smart shoes, the smart car, is that there are digital evidence information being kept in a server. So therefore, if we want to check where this person went through, went visited, so the GPS records will tell us where and what places he visited. Just imagine that, a bra that tells you to breathe deeply or to correct your posture or monitors your heart. Well, basically, these are things that we enjoy in this digital world. But then again, it can be connected to the cell phone, and therefore there are data that we can use in cybercrime investigation. How about this icon? Who is familiar with this icon? Well, if you're a Windows user, you would know that this is the icon for Cortana. Okay, how about this one? Who's familiar with this icon? Well, if you are a fan of Apple, then you would see that this is, yes, Siri. So these are artificial intelligence. When you're using you activate this in your mobile phone or your computer, and this is our voice activated. Let's say, for example, you say Cortana, search for cybercrime, and Cortana would search the internet and would post in your monitor all things about the cybercrime. The same with Siri. Let's say, for example, Siri, look for the contacts Juan de la Cruz. And it would look to your contacts and would show the contact Juan de la Cruz. So basically, these are artificial intelligence that makes our life easier now. Okay? But then again, in cybercrime investigation, these are information being stored in the server that we can use in our cybercrime investigation. How about this one? Who is familiar with this one? Well, yes, it's a TV. What kind of a TV? Well, if you say smart TV, you're correct. Okay? But then again, there's a drawback in using smart TV. I really wanted to have a smart TV, but after understanding this, I do not want to buy a smart TV anymore. So why? Because accordingly, Samsung's warning, our smart TVs record your living room chatter, meaning conversation.
Samsung's Smart TV privacy policy raises concerns. Technically incorrect. Samsung's small print says that its smart TV's voice recognition system will not only capture your private conversations, but also pass them on to third parties. Smart TVs are great as they allow you to do more with your TV than just staring at it, but unfortunately it seems that some smart TVs have some high-tech features that are potentially troubling, especially if you value your privacy. Recently, Samsung's own smart TV privacy policy has been raising some eyebrows due to the way it has been worded. According to Samsung's smart TV privacy policy, it reads, Samsung may collect and your device may capture voice commands and associated texts so that we can provide you with voice recognition features and evaluate and improve the features. Please be aware that if your spoken words include personal or other sensitive information, that information will be among the data captured and transmitted to a third party through your use of voice recognition. Samsung has since received a lot of flack over that particular policy, with some customers claiming that Samsung plans on using their information and selling it to third parties for profit, although in Samsung's defense it seems that at the moment, there is no evidence of the company doing that. Samsung also states that users are more than welcome to opt out of the voice recognition feature or disconnect the TV from their wireless network, although if that is the case customers would have essentially paid more for a TV whose features they won't be able to use. What do you guys?
What do you think? Buying a smart TV, it's collecting your living room discussion or your discussion with your family. Now you may ask, what's the value of collecting the information? Well, then again, if you remember our discussion that the internet collects, analyze, manipulates. Well, let's say, for example, in the smart TV, you're discussing with your wife, I think I would like to have a tour in Malaysia. Okay? Tour Malaysia would be stored and it would be sold to third party. And you would see when you open your smart TV, you would see their advertisement of packages tour in Malaysia. That's how they're going to use your personal information. Okay? So, from everything that we have seen, from the smart shoes, smart car, smart bra, smart TV, it somehow take and record information. Okay, so this information can be collected and can be used in any cybercrime investigation. So what is the go? What thing is what one thing that is good in cyberspace or in the use of the internet is that there is always a record of all our activity. So if a criminals also conducted their activity in the cyberspace, there would always be evidence left, breadcrumbs if you would like to, so that we can somehow identify the perpetrator if we know how to track this evidence. So we can say that the criminals, they create evidence of their activity, or people create evidence of their activity. Okay? So therefore, knowing where to get this digital information is imperative in cybercrime investigation. That's why we said beforehand, the future of investigation is the ability to identify, collect, and preserve digital evidence. So, you have to remember, in cybercrime investigation, identifying all sources of information and potential evidence is critical because these are ephemeral evidence, meaning it can easily be deleted. And once you delete it, it would be very hard to collect this information. You may ask, do Facebook do not have a record of their activity? Well, just imagine this. Let's say, for example, you get a pin or a needle and you throw it in a garden with full of grass. It would be very difficult for you to look for that needle. But if you have a magnet, a powerful magnet, you might be able to collect that needle. The same way with this social media company like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If they know the user, they can easily look for that in their data. But if you delete your user data, it would be very difficult for them to look for your information. So, identifying all sources of information and potential evidence is critical in cybercrime investigation because these are easily destroyed evidence. One thing that you should remember in cybercrime investigation that there's no such thing as easy examination. There's no such thing as gun, delete. I think you already heard the phrase. There's no such thing as delete in the internet. If you upload something, it will be in the internet for a long time. You may ask why. Well, you have to remember, for example, Facebook. You cannot expect that Facebook has only one database of information. They have several databases around the world. And this is being backed up in several uh, mainframe or storage data, because if not, if the data is corrupt, then basically you lose all information. So therefore, once you upload something and it's back up in a server, it would be very difficult for you to delete that information. So if you do not want something in the internet, then I would say do not upload that in the internet. Okay? Now, when we talk about digital information in cyberspace, it is just like this. Okay? It's like a blue clear sky and the stars are considered digital information, digital evidence. It is just a matter of locating and identifying which of these stars, this digital evidence, is needed in your cybercrime investigation. So once you already identify that, okay, you can pick that up and you can use that in your cybercrime investigation. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is cybercrime investigation phase. This is what the US DOJ Cybercrime Laboratory taught us, meaning it's how they conduct cybercrime investigation. And in simplifying their discussion, they say that there are only 4 phases of cybercrime investigation. And what are these 4 phases? Okay, so we have the pre-search phase, we have the search phase, which is small lang, and we have the post-search investigation, and we have the trial. And you would see, if we divide this into area, the biggest area is the post-search investigation. And you may ask, what is pre-search? I think in our study of BS Criminology, in our study of the fundamentals of investigation, special crime investigation, we have not really encountered pre-search investigation. Well, according to O.B. Carroll, when they do cybercrime investigation or they do any investigation, they always do a case build-up. And these 4 phases is referring to the case build-up. Okay? So let's start our discussion first with the pre-search phase. So what do we mean by the pre-search phase? Well, in the pre-search phase, this is done without the suspect knowing that you're already doing your investigation. Okay, now that is after attending this training, then it becomes clear to me sometimes why there are cases that is being filed in court, then after several years it will be dismissed by the judge, by the Supreme Court. Okay, let's for example let's have an example of Puduts. Who is Puduts? I will not mention the name who is Puduts. Okay, but Puduts was charged of a crime, right? Plunder for a specific crime. I will not say the offense. Okay, it was filed, but then again, after several years, it was dismissed for lack of evidence, for lack of merit, for lack of evidence to convict a person beyond reasonable doubt. So the person was released, and the people were enraged. Why? Well, you have to remember, understanding this discussion open my mind to the reason why. Okay? Because in the Philippines, for us to file a case in court, what is the minimum requirement? What is the minimum requirement for you to file a case in court? Well, if you say probable cause, then you're correct. If we have a probable cause under our rules of procedure, rules of court, if there is probable cause, then you can file a case against the person. But then again, what do you mean by probable cause? What is probable cause? In simple words, in statistics, when we say probability, it's probably true and probably false. So you're going to file a case with it is probably true that he is guilty or probably false that he is not guilty. So therefore, the person knows he is under investigation. So if I'm a person under investigation and I don't want to be convicted, what would I do? Right? So for me, I would destroy all evidence that is linked to me. If I destroy all the evidence that is linked to me, what evidence would the investigators look for? And if they cannot find any evidence to convict me, and for me to be convicted in a criminal court, it should be beyond reasonable doubt. Take note, you file a case, probable cause, probably true, probably false, but to convict, it should be beyond reasonable doubt. So therefore, if you cannot collect enough evidence to prove beyond reasonable doubt my guilt, then normally the court will acquit me. And that is what is happening. When there is probable cause, there would be a PC. What is PC? Press conference. We have determined that there is probable cause to file a case against Congressman Pascas. So you file that case. Congressman Pacascas knows that he is under investigation. If he destroy all physical evidence and after several years the investigators are not able to collect enough evidence to convict the person beyond reasonable doubt, Congressman Pacascas would be acquitted. That's the sad reality. Okay, so what the U.S. Department of Justice cyber computer crime is telling us is that part of their investigation is building up the case. In building up the case, the suspect does not know he is already being investigated. So this is the pre-search phase. So here they're going to collect possible evidence in public domain. For example, they have taught us when we have our training in trafficking in person, look at the garbage, because anything that you find in the garbage outside the house, it's already public domain, and you can use that without a court warrant, right? So in cybercrime, let's say for example, what since cyberbullying is the #1 cybercrime in the Philippines, cyber libel. Okay, let's say for example a person posts in Facebook a very libelous context about me. If I say in Facebook, I will sue you, I will see you in court, all that person have to do that post that libelous content, just delete it, then therefore it would very be difficult for me to prove that he posts that. Even Facebook would have a hard time looking for that post. Let's say, for example, I screenshot it, but then again, there's a procedure in cybercrime investigation. The cybercrime investigator must be able to verify whether this is true. For all we know, it is Photoshop, right? So if that post is already deleted, then it would be hard for the cybercrime investigator, the NBI, Cybercrime Division, or the PNP, ACG, to prove that this is an authentic data information. So in pre-search, you're going to conduct investigation. So that's why I would like to tell you, if you believe you are being a victim of cybercrime, do not post that in Facebook that I will sue you, I will see you in court. Go to the police, the cybercrime investigator, so that they will be able to conduct the pre-search. They could look at the account of that person in Facebook, look at the account in Twitter, in Instagram, in Pinterest, whatsoever. Collect that since it is already in a public domain and it can be viewed by the public, it is considered public, so therefore they can record that and they can use that in the investigation. So that's part of the pre-search, meaning you're going to conduct an investigation without the suspect knowing he is under investigation. What is the second phase? Well, it's the search phase. What is the search phase? Here is that you already filed a complaint, a case in court, and you're going to search physical evidence. No. You're going to collect, you're going to collect digital evidence. Okay? And after you collect all the digital evidence available for a post-search scene. Okay? What do you mean by post-search? Sorry? Okay? You go to the post-search. Go to the post-search. In the post-search investigation, it means that what you collected during the search, you're going to process this, analyze this, so that you are able to prove the person's guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And afterwards, you go to the trial, meaning you're going to present in court. But according, okay, most investigation, if you're not considering pre-search phase, you are losing valuable information. Okay? And once you start the case with filing a case in court, the victim is notified that there's a case against him in court. You're going to get a search warrant and you're going to search all digital evidence in his possession. But then again, before you get a warrant, most probable that person has already destroyed digital evidence that would link him to the case. So whatever you've collected, which is very minimal now, you have very minimal to work on, then you have to get proof beyond reasonable doubt. So it's resembling that you are climbing a mountain to prove the guilt of the person beyond reasonable doubt for you to get a trial. But it's just riding a roller coaster. When you get to the top, it is a slide back and you will fail in proving beyond reasonable doubt. Why? Simply because you forgone the pre-search phase. So in the pre-search phase, like I said, you look for evidence in public domain, web-based email, okay? Facebook, social media, Twitter, Viber, WhatsApp, any available digital information in social media is public domain, can be collected without the owner's consent. And that's why I'm telling you, it's good to place your setting in your Facebook into friends only or friends of friends. And do not make it public because any person would be able to see your account. And that is the case, they can collect that and they can use that against you in a court of law. Legal. Okay? Social networking. Okay? Look for that. You can also check online file storage, the cloud server. If that person has a cloud subscription, he has a cloud storage, you can ask that to be preserved so that if the case is filed in court and he deleted this, you have already preserved his data. So one thing good in the pre-search is that when you discover that he has an account in Facebook, you can request the preservation of that account. When you discover that he has a Twitter account, you can ask that to be preserved. If he has an Instagram day account, you can ask that to be preserved. If he has a cloud storage, you can ask that to be preserved. So therefore, if the case is filed and the person, the suspect, deleted all of this account, you have already preserved this information. And when you get the search warrant, this will be turned over to you, this digital information, and then this can be examined so that we can gather the evidence beyond reasonable doubt. So again, remember, in digital evidence, identify, preserve the evidence is crucial, time-bound. It can easily be destroyed. Okay? So therefore now, going again to our 4 phases of investigation, if you conducted the pre-search, meaning you investigated the person without the person knowing he is under investigation, you discovered that he has cloud storage, you discovered he has Facebook account, you discovered that he has many accounts in the internet, you preserve them. When you file the case in court, you can get a warrant to collect all of this data. Okay? So therefore, you can search this after you collected it. Therefore, you have tons, tremendous amount of digital information that can be used to prove the guilt of the person beyond reasonable doubt. So therefore, you're not going to climb a mountain simply because you have enough digital evidence to prove the guilt of the person beyond reasonable doubt. And that's the importance of these 4 phases of investigation. Do research, case build up, get the search warrant to collect this physical evidence, this digital evidence, so that you can use your examination technique, your analysis technique, so that you can prove beyond reasonable doubt in trial the guilt of the person. And that's how they do cybercrime investigation. They're not really familiar with press conference. They would rather get the evidence. When they have enough evidence to convict the person, they file the case. Then that's the time that they do the press conference. But now they have all the evidence they need to be examined and to prove that the person's guilt beyond reasonable doubt in court. So that's how they do cybercrime investigation, and this is what they are suggesting to us for us to do. We also do research. That's why even the PNP ACG now are saying, if you believe that you are a victim of cyberbullying, cyber libel, do not make the screenshot yourself. Go to the PNP or the NBI, and they will do the recording and that makes the evidence more acceptable in court. That is, so they can present when they identify that they have a cloud storage, a Facebook account, a Twitter, they would ask a preservation request from the telecommunication provider, and they would get a warrant to get this digital information, and they would examine this, and they would be able to prove your guilt beyond reasonable doubt. So this is the importance of these 4 phases of investigation. And I hope this is very clear to you. Now, in investigating cybercrime, it is also imperative that we become familiar and we understand how storage devices are able to record, preserve data. When you have many files in your computer, when you try to open one file, it is easily opened by the computer. So an understanding on how storage devices are able to keep your data would have a big understanding, would help us in understanding how to get information when we do cybercrime investigation. So let's now talk about how computers save and delete information. So how do they save and delete? You may ask, how would I know this? I'm not a computer science graduate. Well, I have the same thinking before I attended this training, and then after that, it changed my perception. You don't need to be a computer science graduate to understand cybercrime investigation. And I would like to reiterate in this portion that cybercrime investigation and cybersecurity are 2 different things. For us criminologists, we do cybercrime investigation. But for the IT people, they do cybersecurity. They are 2 different concepts, 2 species. Okay? In cybersecurity, the purpose is to prevent unauthorized access of information, unauthorized access to the computer system. If that prevention failed and there is a hacking that occurred, then that becomes cybercrime. That's where we do our investigative technique in order to identify the person who breached that computer system. And for the IT people, they would try to make their firewall, their protection stronger. So therefore, it's 2 different species. We are not into cybersecurity, but we are into cybercrime investigation. And knowing how computers save and delete information will help understand how we are able to gather the necessary digital. Now, for us to easily understand storage devices, we have to understand today that in modern time, there are 2 types of storage devices. Now, we have the traditional hard drive, the one that has a disk and a uh, electromagnetic properties to be able to record data in this revolving disk. The second and more modern one is the solid state drive, or the SSD drive. In the SSD, as you can see from the illustration, there's no disk, but there are microchip that records the data. And we will discuss them separately. But for now, we will discuss first the traditional hard drive. Okay? So a hard drive, like I said, has a spinning disk. And the spinning disk is where the data is recorded. And I think you understand that in recording the data, the computer only knows 2 characters, 1 and a 0. Okay? But again, probably you and I have the same thinking before I attended the training. How am I going to read 10111010? What does that mean? Well, I had the same thinking before. But then again, I found out that when you do cybercrime investigation, you don't really need to read 10100001. Okay? Because that can be read in plain text. So there's a program that can read this code into plain text. Okay? So in writing a disk, an information on the disk, okay, on the outer edge of the disk, okay, more data can be stored because it has a bigger space. Whereas at the center, okay, there would be less information because there is less space. Okay. Now, what you have to understand is that in each disk is what we call a ring. Each ring on a disk is a segment. Okay. And each segment, like this here, orange one, is divided into sector. And sector, like for example, this blue one, are arranged into cluster. Easily, let's say for example, this is a sector. Okay? Now this for sector is considered as a what? A cluster. So a cluster therefore is composed of 4 sectors. Now each sector is 512 kilobyte. That's very small. 512 kilobyte. So if you add all of these 512 kilobytes for sector, you would have one cluster composed of 2048 kilobytes. So let's say for example, I store the data. I came up with a document. Let's say for example, list of drugs. I put there all the list of drugs that I would like to buy. And I put there the list of person who would be the one responsible in selling these drugs. Let's say, for example, the size of the file that I only around, let's say, for example, 700 kilobyte. So the computer would save this information in a cluster. So, for example, this cluster. So it is 700 kilobyte. But then you have to understand, this whole cluster is 2048 cluster. So this is file storage, file data, 700 kilobyte. What happens to the rest? Well, it becomes a file slot. You may ask, what is a file slot? Now, for us to be able to easily understand, let's say, for example, I take this glass of water, and let's say, for example, I fill this water up to here. So let's say, for example, this is 700 kilobyte. So this cluster has a 700 kilobyte of information, and the rest are file slot, meaning empty. That's it, empty. So therefore, when you look for data, you don't look for file slot. You just look for the data that is recorded on a cluster. So I hope that is clear. Now, so you may ask, how does a computer saves and deletes an information? Okay, so that's how it saves. It puts it in a cluster. Now you may ask, how would the computer be able to retrieve the file that you created a month or a year ago? Well, you always come up with a file name, right? So the computer or the hard drive would have its table of contents, similar to a book that has a table of contents, and it tells there what page you would see this file. Okay, create a table of contents. Okay, so let's say for example, like I said, I created a file list of drugs. Okay, I save it. Now the computer would save all the information in the disk, not in chronological order, but in any space that he can save it the fastest. So it is at random. Okay, let's say for example, I created the list of drugs, and the computer saves it at cluster 68. And he said that the file is long, so I would use 8 cluster. So this would be computed by the computer, not them. Okay, it's computer generated. Now, so 8 clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So up to 7 sa cluster 75. Okay? Now, let's say for example it is saved there. Now, once you save a file in this cluster, the computer as allocated. Now, what do you mean by allocated? Meaning the computer would put there a data block. A data block tells the computer that it is an active file and there is an existing file in the system, and it should not be deleted and it should not be overwritten. So therefore, okay, these 8 clusters is already allotted for the list of drugs. No more document or no more new files can be saved in these clusters. But let's say, for example, I deleted the list of drugs. I click delete. What will happen? Well, the computer would just change the first character into a question mark and put a strike there, and this tells the computer, okay, there's a question mark and a strike. This clusters is free to be written. It becomes unallocated. When you save a data, it becomes allocated. When you delete that, it becomes unallocated. It removes the data block. Okay? It may contain existing data, but it can be overwritten. So our discussion, when the computer deletes this, it doesn't mean the information is no longer here. It's still there. but it just tells the computer you can write over this cluster. Okay? But the data is there. So therefore, if I delete that, then I save a new file, and the computer said, I'll save it at 72. Now, you may see it's chronological range, but it's for simple academic discussion. But like I said, once the computer save in a hard drive, it is at random space. Okay? It could be saved in any any portion of the disk. So for our academic discussion, I will just make it continuous. So let's say, for example, I save a new file, grenade. So the computer said I will start at 72, and it is also size 8 cluster. So if you would remember, our list of drugs is up to 75. But now, the grenade was started at 72 after 79. So what does this mean? Well, the data from 70 to 75, they're gone. Simply because it is overwritten by the grenade. But data from 68 to 71 cluster is still available. It's still there. So let's say, for example, okay, so it's still there. Now let's say, for example, I deleted grenade again. So it will change again. Okay, I will show you. It will change again into question mark, and it would put a strike there. So telling the computer it is already unallocated. So therefore, you can save any document, any file with this cluster. Okay. For example, I save a new file, revolver, now a JPEG. The computer said it's big. I would need 8 clusters. I will start at 76. A while ago, grenade is up to 78. So therefore, from 70 to 78, there are no more files here. It's only the revolver. But cluster 70 to 75, there's still available information here. Just like 68 to 78, there's still available information regarding illicit drugs. Okay? So those are file remnants or remnants of a file that can be extracted, and we can read what is written in here. So let's say, for example, I deleted again the revolver. Okay. Now, so once you delete it, okay, again the allocation is removed. The unallocated is turned on, telling the computer you can write here. Now, one way also the computer is able to identify what type of file you are saving is that it uses what we call file signatures. Okay, so file signatures allows the computer to know what type of file you are saving and what type of program would be able to open it because it uses file signature. Just like in a road, there are signages that tells us road work ahead or end of road work ahead or slippery and wet. It tells us in advance. Okay? So in the computer, with the file signature, it tells the computer what type of program will open the file. Okay? For example, let's say, for example, a JPEG. I save a picture, which is JPEG, is the file extension. The file signature of a JPEG is word Yoya. But you have to remember, you have to use this exact character to look for this in the internet. Okay? You have to use the exact character. So this Yoya is the file signature of JPEG. So whenever you save a JPEG, the computer knows that the file signature is Yoya, and you can use a photo viewer to open this file. Now, these are examples of other file extensions of document. For example, docx. Docx, the extension is a Word document. And this is the file text signature, and this is the file hex signature. So you would see it's the same, okay? But it would change the 4 sets of data would change, telling this is the file extension. PPTX is the PowerPoint, this is the file text signature, and you would see it's almost the same, but it would change on the last 4, okay? XLSX is, okay, it's Excel, and you would see the file signature is different, and this is also different. And NMP4 or 3GP5, the file text signature is FTYPMPM42, and this is the file hex signature. So therefore, the computer will look at this and it will tell, it is a MP4, so this would be opened by a video viewer. It is XLSX, this file will be opened by Excel. If it's a docx, it will be opened by Microsoft Word. So it tells the computer how the program will, it tells the computer what program will be used to open the file using the file signature. Okay? So the file signature is important in carving deleted files. Why? Because it tells the computer what type of file is this. So what do you mean by carving deleted files? So let's say, for example, we are analyzing a flash drive of a suspect drug lord. Okay? And in his possession, there is a flash drive. And it so happens, he created a list of drugs, he deleted it, he saved a picture of grenade and pistol, he deleted the two. But if you remember, the list of drugs is 68 to 74. Okay? No, 75. The grenade was written over 72 towards to 75 up to 78. So therefore, there's still remaining data about list of drugs. There's still remaining data about grenade. And the whole picture would be seen on the revolver. So this is carving deleted files. So we can see this. So like I said, if you save a file on a hard drive, it remains in the hard drive forever unless you overwrite it with the new data. So as long as nothing is overwriting that deleted files, it would remain in the hard drive forever. I hope that's clear. And because of that principle that once you save a data on a hard drive, it remains on the hard drive forever unless it is overwritten, that's why we are able to carve deleted files. We may not be able to collect the entire document, but a partial list of drugs is good enough than nothing, right? So that's how you delete files. So let's say, for example, I save a new file, Explosion. It's a movie. Then the computer, it's a big file. I'll need 24 clusters and I would start at 68 because it is already unallocated up to 91. So what happens to the list of drugs? No more. What happens to the grenade picture? No more. What happens to the deleted revolver picture? No more. You would only see the explosion movie. So those overwritten, it's already gone. Okay? So I hope that is clear. Also, when you carve documents, when you carve deleted files, the forensic tool would tell you where the file was located. For example, I saved the list of drugs at C drive, under user, under lab, desktop, the list of drugs. So therefore, I can find the list on the desktop. So the forensic toolkit will tell you where this deleted file is located before. It will also tell you what time it was created, when it was modified, when it was accessed. So the forensic toolkit will tell you everything. Okay? There's also a regedit in the computer, but mind you, do not use regedit. I will not discuss this because in one time when I was young in my training in cybercrime, I opened this and somehow something happened. Probably I deleted something, I added space or what. The computer shuts down. Blue screen. And the only remedy is reformat. I paid for the reformatting of my computer because I told them that I opened the regedit. So do not open the regedit. I will not tell you how to open the regedit. But what I can tell you is that when you use a forensic toolkit, it will show you the list location, when it was accessed, when it was created, when it was modified, and everything. So, like I said, once you save a data in a hard drive, it remains in the hard drive until it is overwritten. But let's say, for example, you want to delete the file completely. Is there a method in which we can delete completely the file on a hard drive? Well, there are. There is what we call a wiping tool. Okay? Now, what is a wiping tool? Well, a wiping tool will really delete, it will remove all traces of the information. In delete, like I said, it only tells the computer that the data, the file, the cluster, can be used to save a file. But when you say wipe, it will totally remove the data in there. So you can buy, there's a wiping tool that can be bought in the market. Now, how about, for example, a hard drive, an SSD drive? So what we've discussed before is the hard drive. Now let's talk about the SSD drive. Now the SSD drive has no disk. It has only the chip. Okay, and here is the chip that where you stored the data. Okay, so what do you mean by that? Okay, let's say for example, you try to save a data on an SSD drive. Okay, it will save the data on the first chip. Okay, then you create another document, then you save it. It will not save that on the first chip, it would save that on the next chip. And if you make after a month, you make another document, you save that, it would save that on the third chip. So it goes round and round of those 8. Why? To prevent the wear labeling of the chip, because the chip is only good for X number of bytes. Let's say, for example, a particular chip in an SSD drive, you can write that for 1 million times, so that it would wear out all the same time. Once you delete, when you save a data and it's saved in chip 1, the next data would be saved in chip 2, and next data that you will save will be in chip 3, chip 4, and so on and so forth, so that they would have equal number of writes. So data move around to ensure even usage of SSD storage around the drive. Why is that? To prevent wear labeling. What do you mean by wear labeling? Let's say, for example, you have a tin can. Then you open it, and the tin can is connected to the body. And you open and close, open and close, open and close the tin cover. There was a time that the tin would break out, and there's no more cover. So the same way with the SSD drive. So that's why they always move around the data, so that the chip will not easily wear or masira. Okay? So therefore, the data moves around the chip. Then after a week, if you save that in chip 1, then you save another document that will be saved in chip 2. After a week, all the data in chip 1 will be cleared. So that is what we call trimming. Okay? It clears free space, and it is done once a week starting Windows 7 and Windows 8. Okay? So for now, this would be the end of part 1. We will have a toilet break, and after that, we will resume our training in basic forensic examination. Thank you.